One of the most respected voices in all of women's basketball just walked straight into the middle of the loudest argument in the sport. And what Geno Auriemma said about Caitlin is not what either side wanted to hear, because he agreed with one part of it and then he took the rest of it apart. For almost 2 full seasons now, one question has followed Caitlin Clark everywhere she goes. Is she being treated unfairly by the rest of the league? Ever since she came into the WNBA as the #1 overall pick back in 2024, every hard foul, every shove, and every no call has been clipped, shared, and argued about millions of times online. Supporters say the evidence is obvious. They point to the physical defense she absorbs night after night, to officiating that feels wildly inconsistent, and to a level of scrutiny that no other young star has ever carried. And things boiled over again just 2 weeks ago, after the incident involving Phoenix veteran Alyssa Thomas became the newest flashpoint in this whole story. But here is where it gets interesting, because the debate stopped being only about basketball a long time ago. And the man who just spoke up is someone almost nobody in this sport is willing to argue with. Geno Auriemma is not a casual observer. He is the most decorated coach in the history of college basketball, the man who built the University of Connecticut into a dynasty, and someone who has coached and developed more great women players than almost anyone alive. So when he decided to address the Caitlin Clark narrative directly, people listened. Speaking on the Sports Media podcast hosted by Richard Deitch, Auriemma did something that surprised a lot of people. He refused to pick the easy side. He did not tell the Clark defenders exactly what they wanted, and he did not tell her critics what they wanted either. His first point was blunt. When you are the #1 pick, he said, you better be ready. In his view, this is simply what happens to a franchise-changing rookie. The pressure arrives, the target lands on your back, and you have to deal with all of it. He pointed out that every first-round draft pick gets fouled hard. That part, he says, is just professional basketball. But then he made the point that really set the internet on fire. Auriemma flatly rejected the idea that the way Clark is being treated is somehow a racial issue. He dismissed the growing narrative that her rough treatment is proof of some deeper divide in the country. In his words, these fouls are not some verdict on America. They are just fouls. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, and yes, some of them are genuinely flagrant and should be called much better. But that, he insists, is all they are. And that is the part that cuts both ways. Stay with me, because this is where the whole conversation turns. For months, one side has argued that Clark is targeted because she is white and popular. The other side has argued that black players are the ones being unfairly resented, and that Clark has become a symbol used to attack them. Auriemma essentially told both camps that they are missing the point entirely. He suggested that the fandom and the bandwagon became so obsessed with Clark that a basketball problem got twisted into a full-blown cause. In other words, he is saying the officiating genuinely needs to improve, and also that people have turned a refereeing issue into something far bigger and far uglier than it ever needed to be. So why does this matter so much coming from him specifically? Because Auriemma has spent his entire life inside women's basketball. He is not a talk show host chasing outrage, and he is not a fan account looking for clicks. When someone with that history says the racial framing has gone too far, it carries a weight that very few other voices in this sport can match. He is essentially giving people permission to care about the fouls without turning every single one into a national controversy. And this fits into a much larger pattern around Clark that goes way beyond the referees. The debate has quietly expanded into almost everything about her. Fans have pointed to surprisingly low player voting in all-star balloting. They have noticed when she seems to be left out of certain league promotional materials. They have dissected her body language, her rivalries, and every tense moment on the court. To one group, all of that adds up to a league that resents the very player driving its record television ratings, its sold-out arenas, and a huge share of its new revenue. To another group, all of that is wildly exaggerated. They argue that physical play has always been normal in this league, and that social media outrage is now drowning out the achievements of dozens of other talented women who deserve the spotlight too. And there is a bigger reason this argument refuses to die. Caitlin Clark is not just another rookie. She is the single biggest financial engine this league has ever seen, filling arenas that used to sit half empty and pulling in television numbers that older stars could only dream of. So every hard foul carries a weight that goes far beyond the scoreboard. The league desperately needs her healthy and happy, yet it also cannot be seen protecting one player above everyone else. Auriemma understands that impossible balance better than anyone, which is exactly why his measured take landed so hard. And here is the detail that so many people in this argument seem to forget. Through all of it, Caitlin Clark herself has taken a very different tone than many of her loudest fans. She has repeatedly asked people to stop harassing her opponents. She has openly condemned the online abuse aimed at other players and coaches. And she has said over and over that she wants the focus to stay on the actual basketball, not on the endless controversy that keeps swirling around her name, which is exactly why Auriemma stepping in feels so significant right now. He is essentially echoing what Clark has been trying to say all along. The fouls are real. The frustration is understandable. Better officiating is fair to demand. But the moment you turn every collision into a referendum on the entire country, you stop talking about basketball altogether. So the real question that his comments leave behind is this one. Can this sport finally separate the legitimate complaint from the manufactured war? Can fans push for better officiating without weaponizing Clark against the rest of the league, and without weaponizing the rest of the league against her? Because if one of the greatest minds this game has ever produced is begging everyone to take a breath, maybe that is the clearest sign yet of how far off the rails this whole conversation has actually gone. What do you think? Is Geno Auriemma right that this was never about race, or do you believe he is missing something real?